Assalamualaikum and good day to everyone. We are from group Kawarizmi. For this group assignment, we have to do set B, that is purchase order and cash disbursement procedures. We have 5 members including me. So I'm Muhammad QHAIED bin Ahmad Sanusi, matrix number 273824. And other 4 members are SITI SYAZANA binti TALIB, Muhammad AMIR SYAFIK bin Muhammad TAUFIK, YASIR bin Saad, and NORFAZZIANA binti Muhammad NASIR. Okay. For the first slide, table of entities and activities, purchase order and cash disbursement procedures. Okay. There are 5 entities. Okay. For each of the entities, I only state about 3 of their activities for this presentation. For the first entities is warehouse executive, a clerk. Okay. The activities for a warehouse executive are reviews the inventory cards and list all products. Second, manually prepares a pre-numbered purchase order as much as 3 copies. Okay. For the third activities is update the quantity received onto the respective inventory card. Okay. For the second entities is operation employee, a clerk. The activities are handle the receiving process, takes respective purchase order copies, and verifies the inventory description are similar with the information in the purchase order. Okay. For the third entities is accountant of account payable and cash disbursement, that is Lisa, a clerk. Okay. The activities are records the vendor's invoice details into the system. Second, checks the invoice for payment file for any outstanding invoices that are becoming due. Third, chooses the invoices for payment and records the payment details. For the fourth entities, computer program, a system. The activities are reads the vendor's master file and display the vendor's details. Second, edit and check the invoice details. And third, for any possible data entry errors. Third, retrieves vendor's record from the vendor's master file and display all pending invoices. Okay, that's for computer program. For the last entity is account manager, Jason. He makes payment using online banking to the respective vendors. That is the only activities for account manager. Okay. For context diagram, there are 2 context diagram that are purchase order and cash disbursement. Okay. For the first context diagram, purchase order send order via email or fax to vendor, and then vendor send back inventories to purchase order. So after that, purchase order updated the inventory card to account unit. Okay, that's for purchase order. And then for cash disbursement, vendor send invoice to cash disbursement, and then the cash disbursement send payment to vendor. Okay, that's all for context diagram. Next, I will give my presentation to my group members. Thank you. That's all from me.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is YASIR bin Saad. My matric number is 273745. I'm from group Al-Kawarizmi. Today I will present about data flow diagram for purchase order and cash disbursement. Okay, for purchase order process, I identify there are 5 processes involved. The first process is monitoring inventory level for reordering process. Encik Selamat will retrieve the supplies detail from supplier file to identify vendor and quantities to be ordered. After retrieving the supplies detail, Encik Selamat will use that detail to prepare 3 copies of purchase order. This is the second process for the purchase order system. First copy of purchase order are sent to vendor to notify the vendor. Second copy was filled in the incoming purchase order file while waiting for the delivery. Third copy are used to reconcile the inventories delivered from suppliers when the good has arrived. After receiving delivery note from the vendors, Selamat will reconcile the inventories delivered from suppliers based on delivery notes and purchase order. After that, delivery notes and purchase order will also be used for the next process, which is signing the purchase order form and specify the receiving date. The 2 documents will be filled in closed delivery files and sent for the last process to update the quantity received onto the inventory. From there, the original purchase order will be sent to account units of the company, while the second and third copies of purchase order attached with delivery note will be filled in the closed delivery files. This is the DFD for purchase order. Next, we continue DFD for cash disbursement. Okay, in cash disbursement system, there are 6 processes involved, which are identify liability due, key in vendors detail into accounting system, prepare invoices and record payment detail, prepare payment voucher for invoices due, forward payment voucher to account manager, and produce report from accounting system. For the first process, Selamat will retrieve the outstanding invoices due from the invoice for payment file to identify the liability due. After that, it moves to the second process, which is key in vendors detail into accounting system according to invoices and purchase order. Vendors records are retrieved from vendors master file. Then the invoices will be prepared and record the payment detail. The cash disbursement record will be filled in the cash disbursement file, and invoices will be filled to payment voucher register file. Then the same document are also filled in the general ledger master file, indicating that the invoices are paid along with the cash disbursement records. Next, payment voucher are prepared for invoices due. The payment vouchers then sent to forward the payment voucher to account manager. From here, payment slip is sent to bank through online banking for payment and filled in the payment slip file. The purchase order, vendor invoice, payment voucher, and payment slip are then filled in paid invoice file for the data record. Lastly, reports are produced from accounting system by using purchase summary, account payable summary, and total cash disbursement summary are sent to general manager in form of report. Okay, that's all from me for the DFD for purchase order and cash disbursement. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is SYAZANA binti TALIB and my entry number is 272706. Now I'll be presenting the flowchart. So this is the flowchart for purchase order. There are 2 internet entities involved here, which are warehouse executive or Selamat and operation employee. As we can see here, the terminal start is in the warehouse executive. So it starts with Selamat review the inventory card from the sales order system and he refer the supplier's file to identify the vendor about the order. After that, he prepared 3 copies of purchase order manually and notified the vendor through the email or fax. He then filed those purchase order into the incoming purchase order file. After the vendor settled all the order, operation employee will handle the receiving process, where the employee takes out the purchase order copies from the incoming purchase order file together with the delivery note given by the vendor. The employee then inspect the inventory received and verify the order. After making sure that there is no problem with the order received, the employee sign at the receiving information section in the purchase order form and specify the receiving date in the purchase order copies. After that, the employee file those purchase order copy together with the delivery note in the closed delivery file. Selamat or warehouse executive review the closed delivery file and update the quantity received onto the inventory card. He then forward the original copy of purchase order to account unit and the balance, which are second copy and third copy of purchase order and delivery note, will be kept in the closed delivery file. Now I will proceed to the flowchart for cash disbursement procedure. Cash disbursement procedure involves 3 internal entities, which are account officer or LISA, SESB's accounting system, and account manager, which is Jason. The flowchart starts with the account officer, where she checks and takes out the invoice together with the purchase order copy that becoming due from the invoice for payment file. She then enters the vendor's details into the accounting system. After that, the computer program retrieves the information from the vendor master file, and then it displays the pending invoice on screen. Next, Lisa chooses invoice for payment and record the payment detail. And then the computer program record the transaction to the cash disbursement file and payment voucher register file. After that, the computer program update the vendor master file and general ledger master file. Then, Lisa prints out the payment voucher and retrieve the vendor invoice and purchase order copy. The payment voucher is forwarded to Jason. After Jason made a payment to the vendor using online banking, he sent back the payment voucher together with the payment slip to Lisa. Lisa then filed the vendor invoice, purchase order copy, payment voucher, and payment slip into paid invoice file. At the end of the month, Lisa produced a report that consists of purchase summary, account payable summary, and total cash disbursement using the accounting system. The report will be forwarded to the general manager. That's all about the flowchart. Now, I will pass the presentation to my friend. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good evening. My name is NORFAZZIANA binti Muhammad Nasir. My matric number is 275596. Today I will be presenting the strengths and the weaknesses that were present in SCSP Senyum Berhad. First I will be presenting the strengths. As you can see in the question given, we were asked to provide 3 strengths that we can find in the text given. And as you can see in this slide, there were 3 columns: strength, internal control, and justification. So for the first strength is the storeroom area that is securely locked and only accessible by the authorized employee. So SASB is applying the access control of the internal control procedure. The benefit of having the storeroom locked is to prevent and to detect any unauthorized access to the firm asset and inventory. For the second strength, we can see that Shima, who is an accounting, using accounting software to enter delivery details, customer details, product codes, quantity delivered, and when she saves the details accounting software, automatically the software will record the transaction into the sales journal and update account receivable plus general ledger master files. We can see that Shima is applying accounting records from the internal control procedure. The benefit of using an accounting software that we can avoid any inaccurate record keeping. Plus, the accounting system is a well-designed system that has a feature to track any transaction that were lost. Furthermore, by following the audit trail, management can discover where an error occurred. For the third strength is Azalina, who is a sales officer. She reviewed and approved the order made by a reseller by referring to the customer waitlist file before she transferred the detail into the sales order form. We can see that Azalina is applied the independent verification and also transaction authorization. It is to ensure all the material transaction procedures are valid, to authorize the purchases of inventories, and also to avoid sale from an unworthy customer. Next, I will be presenting the weaknesses in SASB procedure. The question asks us to give 4 weaknesses that we can find. So for the first one is the sales order copies that is filed together with pre-printed purchase order. As we know, sales order and purchase is a two different invoice. Filing them together, it can cause any inaccurate record keeping or posting to the wrong account. The second one is the Shima, who is an account officer that is in charge for cash and also charged in account receivable related matter. As an account officer, they cannot in charge in two, which is cash collection and also account receivable, because this can lead to fraud, also possibly steal the customer checks and write off account receivable as bad debt. The third one is the sales invoice that is mailed to the respective reseller. Using mail to send the invoice to the reseller can lead to misplaced or loss for the document or the invoices. It can make the invoices does not reach to the reseller. And then for the last weaknesses is the payment method of the reseller, which is via postal check or bank transfer. We can see there is a risk with applying postal check as one of the payment method, because it can be opened into interception and it can increase the risk of check loss and theft. That's all for me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day I bid to all. So my name is Muhammad AMIR Syafiq bin Muhammad TAUFIK and my metric number is 273691. Today I will be presenting about risk exposure and internal control for each of the weaknesses. For the first weakness, the sale order copies are filed together with the pre-printed purchase order. So the risk exposure is a risk of inaccurately recording transactions in journals and accounts. The accounting records have many types of files, such as the documents, journals or ledgers that are used in the transaction cycle. Therefore, to avoid a misplace or making many mistakes by using same document, the sale order copies need to be filed separately with the pre-printed purchase order to avoid any mistake while doing the orders. And the next and the internal control is pre-numbered document. What is called by pre-numbered document is pre-numbered document is the document that will be used for purchase, and sales need to be tagged differently to ensure there is no mistake while doing the sale and the purchase, because human can make mistake by mixing both of them together, right? This is to ensure that all files are kept in the right files, and it can make work becoming more neat and easy to access. Alright, so for the next weakness, Shima as account officer in charge for cash collection, also in charge administers all account receivable related matter. So the risk exposure for this is risk of unauthorized access to accounting records and reports. The access control needs to be only accessed by authorized personnel, only that can access freedom from assets. In this case, the same person has to in charge for both of it, for the cash collection and also in charge with all account receivable. It is not the proper way to do so, because theft of money or fraud can happen because there is no supervision by other authorized worker. Instead, they just leave it to only one person. And the internal control that we can put here is segregation of duty. What is meant by segregation of duties is the duties of different scope of job need to be done by different employees to minimize the incompatible functions that are made by only one person. This can help to prevent theft of money and make work more effective. Third one, the weakness is still invoice is mailed to the respective seller. The risk exposure is risk of shipping customers incorrect items or quantities. Why I said so? Because when mailing the sales invoice to the reseller, the invoice will be exposed to much distraction, because in mailing there is possible for the mail to be missing, and also it might not received by the reseller because of the damage that might be encountered during the mailing system. Instead of mailing, they should give the sales invoice directly to the hand of the reseller to ensure the safeness of the invoice. For the internal control, in here I put audit trails. I put audit trails because the invoice need to have a system to trace the transaction in detail that related to the items that had been sent to the reseller, to ensure that the invoice will safely arrive to the reseller, and the changes in accounting record that have been made into the database file can be accessed by the authorities. Alright, for the last weakness that I found is the payment method of the reseller, which is via postal check or bank transfer. So the risk exposure here is risk of misappropriation of cash receipts and inventory. By using the postal check, it also might encounter with the missing of the check while transferring the check to the company itself. Therefore, instead of postal check, they can use the check that is sent by hand from the reseller to avoid missing and also the misappropriation of the cash receipts if the check is not arrived safely. Next, bank transfer is a good way to handle cash receipts, but it will be a hard way to make appropriate cash receipt because of the company need to always synchronize the bank account with the cash in hand. Therefore, cash by hand is most appropriate ways to handle cash receipts instead of bank transfer. And for the internal control is multi-level security. Why I said so? Because multi-level security is needed in order to prevent the theft of money or the missing check. This is like the application that uses to process all the information with specific classifications in order to provide the primary access by users in the different security levels and prevent users to access personal data of all the information of other customers. So multi-level security is a need to ensure that the money will safely arrive to us. So with that, I thank you.